You know, when you look at a world map, have you ever really stopped to wonder why it looks the way it does? Why it's carved up into all these different countries? Or why we feel this deep sense of belonging to one place, one nation, and not another? Well, that's exactly what we're digging into today. This is the story of an idea, nationalism, and how it completely changed the world. It's basically the origin story of the modern countries we live in.
All right, so here's our game plan. We're going to start with an artist's wild dream for a new kind of world. Then we'll get right to the heart of it. What even is a nation? After that, we'll jump into the history, looking at the huge spark from the French Revolution, how Napoleon ironically ended up spreading the fire, and finally we'll look at the new social class that was ready and waiting to fan those flames.
So, where does this whole story kick off? You might be surprised. It doesn't start with a battle or a political decree. It actually starts with a piece of art, with a dream of a world that was radically different from anything that existed at the time. Okay, take a look at this. It's a print by a French artist, Frédéric Sérou, and he called it The Dream of Worldwide Democratic and Social Republics. What you're seeing is this long, winding train of people from all over Europe and America, and they're all marching past the Statue of Liberty. But look closer. Look at what's on the ground. See that? Shattered crowns, broken symbols of old monarchies, all left behind in the dust. Now you have to understand, in 1848, this was a fantasy. It was considered totally utopian. The idea that the world would be a family of self-governing nations, instead of a patchwork of kingdoms ruled by emperors, seemed so idealistic, so perfect, that most people thought it was completely impossible. Let's decode this thing, because Soryu packed so much meaning in here. That Statue of Liberty? She's holding the torch of enlightenment and the Charter of the Rights of Man. And the people marching, they aren't just a random crowd. Each group is a distinct nation. You can tell by their flags and their traditional clothes. And way up in the sky, you have Christ and the angels blessing this whole scene, this new brotherhood of nations. It's literally a vision for a whole new world. So this amazing artwork brings up a really fundamental question. Before this idea of nationalism took hold, what was it that actually held people together? If you didn't have a shared national identity, what did you have? And what does it really even mean to be a nation, anyway?
Okay, this is a really key distinction to grasp. It's the difference between a dynastic empire and a nation-state. Think about something like the old Habsburg Empire. It was just a patchwork of different peoples, Germans, Italians, Hungarians, who spoke different languages, had different cultures. The only thing holding them all together was their loyalty to one guy, the emperor. A nation-state is the total opposite. It's built on a shared identity among the people themselves, a feeling of connection that comes from a shared past and shared struggles.
And the French philosopher Ernst Renan just nailed it in 1882. He argued that a nation isn't just about sharing a language or living in the same area. No, he said it's a large-scale solidarity. It's built on the memory of sacrifices people made in the past and a real desire right now to keep living together. And then he says this amazing thing, a nation's existence is a daily plebiscite. So what on earth is a plebiscite? It's just a direct vote where everyone gets to say yes or no to a big proposal. So when Renan says a nation is a daily plebiscite, he means that every single day, the people of that nation are kind of implicitly voting yes to continue being a nation. It's not a static thing, it's an active choice that people make together, over and over again. Okay, so you've got this beautiful, philosophical idea. But ideas are one thing, reality is another. To make this happen, you need a spark, a big one. And that spark, the explosion that took the idea of the nation out of books and onto the streets, was the French Revolution in 1789. And the French revolutionaries were incredibly smart about this. They didn't just get rid of the king, they set out to build a brand new collective identity. They started using words like la patrie, the fatherland, and le citoyen, the citizen, to make everyone feel like part of one community. They got a new flag, the tricolor, to replace the old royal one. They created the same laws for everybody, the same weights and measures. They were actively and consciously turning subjects of a king into citizens of a nation. But the revolution didn't just stay in France. The revolutionaries felt they had a mission to liberate all the other peoples of Europe. And the guy who took that mission and his armies on the road across the entire continent, well, you know who I'm talking about, Napoleon Bonaparte. And this is where things get really interesting and kind of ironic. On the one hand, Napoleon crowns himself emperor, basically destroying democracy in France. But on the other hand, through his reforms, especially the famous Napoleonic Code, he exported the core ideas of the revolution everywhere he went. He got rid of privileges based on birth, created equality before the law, and ended the old feudal system. He was basically planting the seeds of the modern world all over Europe. And these two images just perfectly capture the contradiction. On the left, people are celebrating the French as heroes, as liberators bringing freedom. But on the right, you see the other side of the coin, French soldiers acting like occupiers. You see, the initial excitement often turned sour once people had to deal with high taxes, censorship, and being forced to join Napoleon's army. And in the end, as this cartoon shows, it all came crashing down. This shows Napoleon after a huge defeat, with all the lands he conquered literally falling out of his bag. But here's the kicker. You can defeat an army, you can defeat an emperor, but you can't unspread an idea. The cat was already out of the bag.
So that begs the question, right? Napoleon's gone. His empire is toast. So why did this idea of the nation-state not only survive, but actually explode in popularity? Well, to understand that, we have to look at who was gaining power in Europe at this time.
The Industrial Revolution was completely changing the game. It was creating a whole new social group that wasn't the old landowning aristocracy, and it wasn't the peasantry. It was a new, educated, powerful middle class. We're talking industrialists, businessmen, doctors, lawyers, people whose power came from commerce, not from an old family name.
And this new class had its own favorite political philosophy, liberalism. For them, liberalism meant individual freedom, equality, government by the consent of the people, and protection of private property. But there was a problem. How do you get those things in an empire run by a king? You can't. And that's the light bulb moment. For this new middle class, nationalism became the perfect tool to achieve liberalism. The nation-state was the ideal way to get rid of the old kings and guarantee their new freedoms.
And when you look at the timeline, you can see how this thing just caught fire. It was like a chain reaction. Napoleon's wars lit the initial match. After he fell, the old empires tried to put a lid on it, but it was too late. The Greek independence struggle showed it could be done. Then 1848, the year of that painting. Boom, the whole continent erupts. And just a couple of decades later, that utopian dream becomes a reality with a united Italy and a united Germany. The idea had well and truly won. Which brings us all the way back to Renan's powerful idea of a nation as a daily choice, a daily vote. If a nation is something its citizens have to actively choose to continue every single day, it really makes you stop and think, doesn't it? What does that choice look like for us right now? What does it mean for you to cast your vote for your nation today?